Chapter 7 of Heroines of Travel by Frank Mundell. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. In South Africa. Lady Barker's record of her experiences in South Africa some years ago is full of interest. Wishing to travel one day from Maritzburg to Durban, Lady Barker secured a seat in the post cart and set out, as she says, packed so tightly on the coach box that she had the mail bags under her feet and the driver's elbows in her ribs. The horses were gaunt-looking animals, ill-favoured and ill-groomed, but all in good condition and able to do their work in first-rate style. Each had a name, and these were generally those of well-known public characters, which sounded somewhat oddly under the circumstances. "Did we come," says Lady Barker, "to a steep hillside, up which any respectable English horse would expect to walk in a leisurely and sober fashion, then our driver shook out his reins, blew a shrill blast on his bugle, and cried, 'Walk along, Lord Gifford. Think as you've got another Victoria Cross to get, top of this hill. Walk along, Lord Carnarvon. You ain't sitting in a cabinet council here, you know. Don't leave Sir Garnet to do all the work. Forward, my lucky lads. Creep up it.' She was somewhat startled to hear the driver suddenly exclaim, 'Walk along, Lady Barker. I'm ashamed of you, I am, hanging your head like that at a bit of a hill.' But when she remembered that the words were addressed to a very hard-working little brown mare, she could only laugh and feel flattered that she had such a worthy namesake. Lady Barker's neighbours near her South African home were natives, and not by any means desirable acquaintances. Their homes were native kraals, each of which consisted of about half a dozen large huts shaped like beehives. The ground round about was roughly scratched by the women with crooked hoes, to form a mealie ground. Cows, mealies, tobacco and blankets are all the natives require. Their pipe is usually a cow's horn. When a chief appeared in public, he was attired in a motley garb of old regimentals, his head, legs and feet quite bare. Riding on a sorry nag with the point of his great toe resting in the stirrup, he was followed by the chief men carrying sticks, and behind them came some of their wives, bearing heavy loads on their heads, and often with a young child on their backs. They looked healthy, happy, and jolly, and they were all insufferably lazy. Lady Barker had often heard of serpents being caught in the neighbourhood, but had never seen one, until one day, wishing to see if the baby was asleep, she tried to peep into the nursery, but found something pressing against the door on the inside. With some difficulty she opened it sufficiently to see the head of a large snake held up in the air with the forked tongue out. She at once called a Kaffir servant named Jack, who obtained a stick, while his mistress armed herself with a riding whip, and together they dispatched the dangerous intruder. After that, everybody went about for some days in fear of meeting with another snake. Cupboards and all recesses were carefully searched, and the boots were always looked into before being put on. Several snakes were found quite close to the house, but no more were discovered inside. Frogs were very numerous, and hopped in and out at will, often startling the inmates by appearing in the dark and giving the impression that another snake was there. One day a wagon came in with two adventurers who had made an expedition into the bush and brought back a goodly pile of skins and a large quantity of magnificent horns of all sizes. The chief trophy, however, was a lion's skin. The animal had been shot while endeavouring to stalk the only donkey in the camp. Lions, says Lady Barker, can resist anything except ass flesh, it appears, but it is so entirely their favourite delicacy that they forget their cunning and become absolutely reckless in pursuit of it. There is nothing the Kaffirs prize more highly than the fat of the lion. The head man of the expedition claimed this as his perquisite, and having melted it down into gourds, he sold it in small quantities to the natives. The wild animals, which at one time were very numerous in all parts of South Africa, were being gradually driven farther and farther into the bush, and it was no uncommon sight to see the pits with sharp stakes at the bottom dug to trap elephants, whose bones still lay bleaching in the sun. One hill station which Lady Barker frequently visited was often invaded by troops of baboons from the woods near. When the mealies were ripe, these troublesome animals literally swarmed over the place in small armies and carried off armfuls of cobs. There was a regular system of warfare between the Kaffirs and the baboons, and Lady Barker was horrified to hear that on one occasion the angry natives had caught an old baboon leader, skinned him alive and let him return to the woods as a warning to his fellow thieves. End of chapter 7.